Hey, hello, and welcome to the second day of the Creative Challenge. We'll be taking a look today at an arcane-inspired glitch effect. It's actually more of a glitch, doodle, scribble effect, and if you don't know what I'm speaking about, I'm going to show you in a second. But just as a note, if you haven't signed up yet for the Creative Challenge, you can do so by going to behance.net/challenge/premiere. There you can also catch the videos and streams you might have missed. And if you're right on time, you might catch a sneak peek of what's coming up the next day. Other than that, I would say let's get straight into it and jump into Premiere and take a look at what we'll be working on today. I have prepared a little sequence so we know what we will be working towards today. Let me blow this up a little bit and have a quick look at the sequence so we know what will happen. And then I'm going to explain a little bit and we'll rebuild the scene from scratch. Okay, that's what we want to produce today. I will just say one thing. I added a few sound effects down below here to kind of sell the full effect. That's not what we will be concentrating on today. We will mainly concentrate on the visual part. And to do that, we're going to delete everything except for my adjustment layer up here. That's my color grading. And to orient ourselves a little bit, let's have a look at the folder structure here. We have our footage. That's basically just one clip. We have our sound effects, those that I used. We have a visual effect that is also like the start that on the one hand we have the starter pack down below in the links. That was what I was trying to say, the folder structure, but we also have this VFX effect I'll show you in a little bit. The first thing we want to do is I also will delete these assets because we will also create them. Yes, let's go. Let's get rid of them. Now let's go to our clip here. I want to start the clip roughly around the time where I enter the frame, and I do that by double tapping my footage in the footage folder. Then I press, let me clear this in and out in a bit, not moving too fast here. I hit I for the in point, then I move to here where I start looking up. That's roughly where I want my out point to be. And then I'm basically just gonna tap or click and hold on the source monitor, the source screen, and drag this into my timeline. All right, that's a bit big. So we're gonna select our video clip, go to Effect Controls, and scale it down to 50% since it's a 4K clip. And we're working in a roughly 180p timeline. It's actually a bit narrow. It's 2:1 ratio. I just like that. I think it looks better, and it's what most smartphones and iPhones these days actually display in full screen size. The next thing I want to do here in my timeline is to select the moment I want the glitch effect to happen. And there's a moment where I turn my head about here. And I want to mark that. And I can do that by hitting the M key on my keyboard. You can also, just to move a step backwards here, you can also in the timeline do this. Set your marker here, and you can actually go into the marker, give it a name and comments, and you can use this for all kinds of things. But I currently just need a visual marker. So I'm going to set it here, and this is where I want my effect to happen. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move to my program monitor and look for this little camera icon here. That's the export frame icon. If you cannot see that, hit the plus icon down below on the program monitor. Look for the icon, drag it down, and hit OK. I already have the icon, so I won't do that. Cancel, and I will push it for now. Call this glitch base, since it's the base we'll be working off. Format, JPEG looks good. We could also choose something else if we needed to, but for our purposes, this is perfectly fine. We're going to save it to the desktop. We don't want to import it into the project, so we're not going to check that, and we're going to hit OK. The next thing we're going to do is we will jump into Photoshop. That's right. And we're going to File, Open. Then we'll select our glitch base and open it up in Photoshop. And this will be where we will create this effect. What I'm speaking about is, you may have seen this, if you haven't watched Arcane, the animated series, you may have seen this as a wiggly text effect. And basically what is happening is, you draw a text effect or a doodle, whatever it is, in roughly the same space. So you draw it one more time, then you draw it another time, you draw it a third time, maybe fourth time, and then you're going to export this and lay it over on the timeline. You will see what I mean in a minute, so that it actually creates this wiggly effect. And we'll do this now in the Arcane style with the axis for the eyes. But the first thing I need to do before I even get started is to actually select the brush tool. That already happened here. In my case, I've selected the Kyle Ultimate Charcoal Pencil brush tool and chose a size of 35 pixels. Another way to play around and see what brush sizes you have, actually what kinds of brush you have. I personally like this for being a little bit grungy, is to go to the brush settings. And here you could also choose something. Oh, that's actually not clean at all. I might have missed it a little bit. That also not. Give me a clean one. This one, for instance, that's a bit cleaner. If you want to work with that, that's absolutely possible as well. That's a choice of preference, but I'll go with the one I spoke earlier about. That's 25. I want to increase it to 35 since I've played around with it already a bit and I know what kind of size I would like to have. Before I start to draw on my canvas here on my base, I want to create a new layer, and I do that by going to the layers panel. If you don't have that, if you cannot see that, please go to Window, look for layers, and toggle that on. And then we're going to create a new layer, an empty, transparent layer. That's what we want. And actually, let me rename this by double-clicking on this. I'm going to call this glitch 1. And now we're going to duplicate it. We can either do this with a double click and duplicate layer, or I can hit Command J or Control J if you're working on a Windows PC. We're going to duplicate it 2 times. You could also do it 4 to 5 times, but for time's sake, we want to move quickly. We're just going to do 3. Whoops, that's 12. That's not what I meant. I want to call this glitch 2. Double tap on the 3rd layer, and that's glitch 3. Now we're going to toggle off the first 2 layers, or actually we don't need to toggle them off, but I'll do that just to get a better overview. Select the glitch layer 1, and then I'm going to start to draw on this first layer. I'm not trying to be too perfectionistic here. I'm going to have axis for my eyes and a rather not so happy face. So the idea basically is, in Arcane, this effect was used to represent Jinx, one of the characters' mental struggles. So sometimes on the outside, she would look A-okay, or maybe a bit apathic, but on the inside, there was a lot going on, and this effect was used to kind of represent that. And we're doing the same here. I'm looking A-okay, but I want to show off, oh, maybe on the inside, I don't feel all that well in the video. So that's our first layer. I think that is okay. We're going to toggle that off, move to the second layer, and we'll do the same thing. Select the second layer, do axis for the eyes, maybe draw a bit of a different mouth. Okay, I don't like that. Like I said, for time's sake, we don't want to be too perfectionistic, but I am a little bit. I'm not happy with this. Okay, let's keep this for comparison. Okay. And we're going to do the third one, toggle it on, select it, do this one more time. And we're maybe having a bigger opening here. Okay, toggle it off, toggle the first one on, and now we're going to toggle off our base layer. And then we're going to File, and we're exporting this, and we're going to export it as a quick export PNG, because we want to keep the transparent base. We want an alpha channel inside of this. And we're going to call it glitch 1. Save it to the desktop. That's fine for me. Going to toggle off the second layer, File, Export, quick export as PNG. We're going to call this glitch 2. And for the last one, we do exactly the same thing. Glitch free. There we go. And now we're heading back to Premiere. I'm going to enter my asset folder. Then I'm going to double click on it, hit import, and select all my free glitch PNGs. And I'm going to import them. So the way you can go about this is if we want to simply drag it onto the timeline, we can do it, but it takes up a lot of space. So the alternative to make a step back here, which I, by the way, do with Command Z or Command Z, excuse me, and Control Z if you're working on a Windows PC. We could also get back in here in our source monitor, make hit I for an in point or for an out point, and then drag video only. Or because there's no sound, we could as well drag it from the monitor straightly down here. It's a little bit shorter, but a easier way to go about this is to select all of my PNGs here, all of my assets, and then either double click on it and go to, where is it? Speed and duration, and change this one here. Or what I do is hit Command R or Control R if you're working on a PC. Go into this and change the duration to, for instance, 1 frame or 2 frame. I'm going to show you how 1 frame looks like. I personally think, well, we'll just have a look at it. Okay, that's a bit far out. So I'm going to hit my plus key to zoom in a little bit and see what we're actually working with. This is when the duration of the effect is 1 frame long. And I think that's a bit short. You can definitely work with that if you want to represent a very subtle effect. Can do that. And I mean, we can also see how it looks if we add a little bit more to it. So we have a slightly longer effect. But I don't like how that jumps back and forth. So what we're going to do is go back to it, Command R or Control R, and we're going to change this to 2 frames. Now this is looking more like what I had in mind. Okay. So, but now it's not really much of a glitch effect, is it? What we're going to do now, we're going to start stylizing our effect. And for that, the first thing I want to do is to cut out, or excuse me if I'm moving too fast here, I'm going to select the razor tool, or if I want to do so, hit C on the keyboard to select the razor tool and cut at the beginning and at the end of my glitch effect. Then I want to go to the effects panel and select Lumetri color. And we're going to drag this onto our clip, then move to the effects control panel. If you don't have that, if you don't see that, go to window and search for effect controls. We're going to enter either the Lumetri panel here, or we're going to select the Lumetri panel on our side, which you can again select and find in the window space. And what I want to do is, because this is so warm and nice picture, and I want to say, okay, this is not supposed to feel nice and warm, but it's supposed to have or represent a bit of a contrast, is change the color temperature, say to -15. All right, that's already looking a bit different. Do I want to add a little bit of magenta? I'm not sure. I'm going to leave it at that. We're also going to decrease the saturation because it is not a happy day in this case. And I want a little bit more contrast. I want this to feel a little bit darker and just not so friendly as this one. Okay, that's difference enough, but that doesn't really sell it. So what we need is the transition. And what I would normally do is I would work with keyframes, but for time's sake, we'll move a little bit faster and I will show you a way to create somewhat of a sellable transition in a very easy way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the beginning of my glitch effect and go 1 frame back, which I do with my arrow keys here, 1 frame back, set a cut there, going to move to the beginning of my glitch effect again, and set a cut after that. What I want to do is blow out those images by like, say, 1.5. So what I'm doing is I basically went into the Lumetri control panel and I'm increasing the exposure to 1.5. Okay, maybe gonna blow out the highlights a little bit more. The shadows can stay like they are. Add a ton of contrast, maybe even a little bit more. So we don't want to blow it out completely because that's not going to help us. We want parts to remain visible, and we're going to do the same thing for, oopsie, this one, but already with the changed adjustments. So we have this here. And if I play this back, it's going to be almost like a not fade to white, but like a cross dissolve to white, just happening super quickly. It's like a quick lightning strike, a quick lightning transition. And we're going to do the same for the end of our glitch effect. Like I said, if there would be a little bit more time and if I wanted to play around with it, I would do all this with keyframes and maybe not even set cuts here. Okay, we're going to blow this one out. And this one like so. Oh, actually, instead of, I'm being a little bit silly here. Instead of doing all the adjustments one by one, we could also go in here in our effect controls, select our Lumetri color effect, then use Command and copy or Control and copy, and just paste this right here. Okay. So that's starting to look like something. All good and well. Let's stylize a little bit further. What I want to add next is something called, chromatic aberration. Speaking and typing simultaneously is not that easy. So I do not necessarily like how this looks now, so I'm going to change it to some values I like to usually go with. And what I'm doing is, let me show you, is I'm changing the red, green, and blue values basically here. If you manipulate them, you're also manipulating what this chromatic aberration effect is looking like. And I'm going to change red to -2.5, green to 2.5, and blue to 2.5. So I have a little bit of cyan and red here. And I do not necessarily like how this looks. So I sometimes will invert the fall off, invert this effect, and see if I like this more. And you can see this is where our effect is appearing. What this also does is it gives it a little vintage vibey looking image. It takes out a little bit of the sharpness. Okay, so this is starting to look like something. And I think I want this effect selected in our effect control panel to Command C and then Command V, paste it also at the end and beginning of our effect. Cool. But it's still not glitchy enough, is it? So the next thing we're gonna do is select all of our above layers. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, I do not always like it when motion graphics are looking too sharp on my videos. So what I sometimes do is I'm selecting an effect called fast blur, and I'm gonna put it on top and just increase it by 2. So let me pull this up here. It doesn't do much, but it makes it just feel a little bit more organic. And I, again, will copy this effect and paste it while holding Shift onto all my other layers. And I also think it doesn't need to be white, so we can also play around with the opacity here. And I think, yeah, 65 actually, let's compare it to 100. 65 in opacity looks good. We're still in the effect controls. So I'm gonna select opacity, Command C or Control C, and again, select all my other PNGs and paste it onto that. This is starting to look like something. So the next thing we're gonna do is select all my PNGs and the layers down below, and then we're gonna double click and nest it. And we're gonna call this glitch because that's what we're doing. Okay, now that I've nested it, all effects I will apply to this bottom layer here will affect not only my footage, but also, well, the doodles, the scribbles we put on top. And that's what I want to do. And what I want to do is to introduce a little bit of variety in what is happening here. And an easy way to do this when you're working with glitch effects is basically to, for instance, move 1, 2 frames in, set a cut, move another frame. I'm doing this with the arrow keys, and then decrease the opacity to 30. So it looks like, whoops, there's a frame missing. Oh, I did this for the wrong part. So let's increase this one to 100 again. Right, so like this one, that's what we want to do. And this is how it's looking. Now I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 frames forward. And we're going to blow this up to 130, 120 maybe, something like that. And move another 2 frames. Okay, and we're going to decrease this one just to opacity of 50. And now we have a little something going on. And now we're going to add the last touch I was speaking about. We're moving to our VFX panel. And there are film scratches, which you also will find. I'm moving a bit too fast here. Below the video, below the stream, linked next to your starter pack. I point for in, O for out. Drag only video with this icon in here. That's a bit too long. And as you can see, you can't see much. So what we're going to do is go to the effect control, select film scratches, and then change the opacity to screen. And now we can see a little something. Okay, one last little adjustment before we call this a day is, oh, sorry, I want to move to the Lumetri color panel, increase the exposure a little bit. Basically what does is shows a little bit more of those white scratches there, increase the shadows. And here we go. Let's have another look at it. This is starting to look like something. So as I said in the beginning, adding a little bit of sound would even sell this effect more. And you can do this, for instance, by first manipulating this bottom layer here. And for instance, add a reverb effect or play around with different filters, or you can add an IQ effect to this so that it sounds a little bit more unreal and detached from reality, which basically is what this glitch effect represents. And you could also, if we wanted to do that, for instance, add another effect on top so that we have even more of those scratches, right? For my taste, a little bit much maybe. But yeah, that's it. An arcane stylized glitch effect. For me, this was a lot of fun. I hope for you it was as well. And we will have a new challenge coming up already tomorrow. So I'll be happy to see you again there. Other than that, the only thing left to say for me is stay tuned for the next stream, and I'll be happy to see you tomorrow with a new creative challenge.